and I'm going to introduce my friend and partner Jenny Wilmshurst, who has been working with social media probably as long as there's been a form of social media around. She's got an online knowledge that I don't know many people who have. There's a lot of people who may have presence, but they have no understanding, and Jenny has the understanding. So Jenny, do you want, I'm going to change the presenter, you then show your screen, and I'm sure we're going to have a wonderful half hour together. So Nick, enjoy your dinner, and we'll allow you to ask questions, and when you're finished, we'll let you participate. So Jenny, here you go.
Righto. Oh, thank you for that welcome, Roberta.
Hold on a second. Okay. You got control?
Right.
Yes.
I can see. Yes, I can see everything.
I can see you.
Okay, well, thank you for the welcome, Roberta, and thank you to the folks on the other end of this webinar. As Roberta says, we started with my business startup because we've got a real passion for wanting to make a difference. And the difference between being the younger person with a lot of passion and let's go get them, we actually now have the wisdom that goes with it. Sometimes we don't have the wisdom. It's very easy for us to put our foot in it because we're people, but now we have a lot more people knowledge, business knowledge, and so it means that we can change things a whole lot more in ways that we never could previously. And now that the whole world has changed with social media, we've got a whole raft of new challenges and new ways that we can influence as well. So if you want to see how Roberta and I are on the other end of the screen, here are images of both of us. So we're at various stages of being baby boomers. I've just started my journey as being a baby boomer a few years back. But getting into today how we're going to be covering various aspects of the three aspects we're going to cover. We're going to be talking about the old ways features, new ways features, some of the advantages and what you can actually do about some of those opportunities that come from those advantages and new ways of doing things. And one of the very first ways is with relationships. There was an old way of doing business in which there tended to be more closed communication loops. It was quite top-heavy in the organisational structures, and very hierarchical attitudes often made it really difficult to actually make changes in a really dynamic way and really pull from people's genius within the organisations. And now instead we have new marketing ways which are based on a whole new raft of principles that come from good old-fashioned values, and they are involving a lot more trust building. So we're able to break down a lot of the barriers of politics in business, hopefully, and start to use a lot of those values in our businesses as startups. Although startups are a little bit different from corporate environment, there are many ways that we have a benefit of being a startup because we can actually introduce and be way more flexible with these new ways in our businesses. We now have ways that we can communicate within our organisations, whatever size they are, and have really open communication using some of the tools that are available. And externally we'll have a range of customers and prospects and suppliers who we can identify and communicate with in a lot more simple way. With more productivity through some of the tools that are available. Now we also see that there is a whole different towards doing business. The idea of developing joint ventures is a lot more popular than it had been, and now we can see companies of all kinds of sizes who are alliance competitors, and because they see their businesses uniquely, maybe in a similar space, they see that they can actually work together to achieve far greater results. And so because of those synergies, there's way better power for the businesses with the power of many. So this whole principle that social media has brought about, it means that we've got flatter structures, we've got communities of people and a lot more conversations which happen online, and they may migrate between online and offline. They're multi-directional kinds of communication between different kinds of social media that we might be using, and sometimes we can be using social media on a multiple kinds of platforms like mobile in the States is very, very strong in a way that the uptake is much stronger there than in most other places, but there's so much more social media activity on mobile, and so the whole dynamics of bringing social media and mobile activity, and then it's how that's scaled into small businesses with local marketing, export marketing, and marketing with corporates has entirely changed. Now we have a way of reaching influential people and interacting with them, but also with the fact that we can access people and people can access us more easily. The whole notion of reputation and recommendations really matter, and it means that we have to be so findable online and so easily verified. Some of the disadvantages of being accessible and having relationships online with this whole new dynamic is that sometimes we have to invest our time in ways that we might perceive initially as being quite a drain. Maybe that's a negative, but when you think of it, that if you don't go out there door knocking or telemarketing, you have to actually find another way to replace that time. So if you're seeing your offline marketing activity as a time block, some of that can be time blocked into social media instead, and then the whole flow of the way that you would be going through the whole sales development process, it means that you can do a lot of it online and then really spend time with people, most of it online, with spending most of the time at the tail end offline when the whole sales process really counts, and the relationship needs its depth by being face-to-face and being able to eyeball each other. So with the advantages, we've got much easier access to new communications with the influencers and stakeholders that we need to get hold of and develop the relationships and to be able to leverage those. So what you can do to make the most of those is to be publishing, sharing, making comment, actively finding the influencers that you want to target, finding those who've got really large followings so that you can develop your own niche groups. So when you're online marketing, you'll be using a combination of developing and targeting communities and influencers and driving traffic. You'll also be finding some of the influentials in the media circles as well, because they are a very fond ally. They're eager for news, but you're eager for messages that they can actually distribute globally. You'll also be automating, but our automation must never be at the sacrifice of personal relationships. And so I would strongly recommend social media executed with a combination of automation, for instance, having certain of your social media connected together, so when you send out a message on Facebook, for instance, it goes out to Twitter. Messages on your blog might come into Facebook and Twitter, for instance, so that you can leverage your time. And when you actually find the people who really want to talk to you, you do have that time to spend with them and really discuss some of the needs and concerns and the ways that you can really help them. Some of the most influential contacts that we'll have will help us develop the social media presence and help get us strategic exposure, so it's very important to target relationships but also build a reputation, because people like that will be wanting to know exactly who you are and what you're about, and it goes beyond having a name and an address and a website. People will often go online and they'll look for things that you're interested in so that they can build rapport when they actually talk with you. I know someone who does a lot of export work, and he actually goes right to the nth degree. He will verify the IP address, he will verify exactly where that person lives, he will look for some indicators of their ability to pay for his services, and in the States you're very fortunate because there are very open financial records that we don't experience here down under. So there is great leverage that you can get out of the relationships and the information that is available online that you need to give people as well as other people need to give you. We also have the challenge that we've grown up with. We've seen, especially in the 70s, that whole mass push of marketing, and it's been, people like McDonald's are really prime as marketers of that, and where they held a very tight control through the franchises and the ways that they were sending out their messages as well. And we have an entirely different way of dealing with brands now. The old featured ownership and control of messages, and there were much fewer communication channels than we have now, so it was much easier to control the messages, to control the brand. And unfortunately now we just don't have that ability to dominate brands in the same way, because smaller organisations have just as much power, if they're smart, to leverage their brands and become the small business with a big voice. And that's most necessary because ads just don't work the way they used to, and people are using the control of the TV channels and ways that are that we just haven't seen yet but are forecasted. So we've now got a new control of our messages, but the disadvantage that we would probably see as baby boomers is that we have risk of our brand as well. And what if people said something terrible about our brand? How would we respond to that? And those are very valid questions. So we really need to consider the risk factors with our brands. But the advantages are, as I was saying before, that we do have a level playing field, and small businesses have the ability to adapt more speedily with their brands, and with our low budgets we still can impact big. So what you can do to achieve that kind of impact is to make sure you're developing a lot of content, but you need to do that with a lot of preparation and really understanding your market and be incredibly strategic and know exactly what your messages will be, to listen to your market and really track what the market says and does, and know what your plan is, so that when there will be very specific parts of your plan too where you're making decisions about how you're going to respond to the risks. In part of your communication too, you'll also be considering what reasons they will have to follow you and a purpose for each of the elements. And at the moment our social media also needs to strongly consider how it integrates with and what we're going to say and how we're going to say it and how we're going to use these other channels like mobile marketing and local marketing. And if we're an exporter or an organisation or business that has hopes and aspirations of being global, how we're going to be behaving as a global market community member as well. So here's a little diagram I unfortunately don't have the attribution to. I found it quite some time ago and I've used it since because I thought it was a really nice way of describing how we integrate some traditional ways with some of the some of the ways that we've grown up with some of the new ways. And although direct marketing traditionally has been regarded as lead generation, and brand marketing is all about reputation and image, and social media in its earliest days was about customer engagement and a new kind of communication, now we have the blend and the merge of each, taking the best of each, and we now have a new model through that helps us talk with people and really know who the people who are going to give us, who really want us and need us, and who we really need also to make our businesses really work and grow. The other factor that's interesting is that there are whole new ways that people are buying. So the shopping habits and the timing of purchases and the way people research is entirely different than what we've had before. So the old ways featured things like in-store sales, and people would roll up to the store and there would be minimal research and there would be very strong brand loyalty because brands were built around loyalty. But now instead what we see is that buyers are doing so much research before they buy. A lot of the time they'll know the make, the model and the options in case stock isn't available. They will also go online to find whether stock is available or not. They'll look for reviews and recommendations to make sure the criterion have exactly fit what they're looking for. And the ways that we can see that happening with an online-offline mix is doing that research, deciding a company or a couple of companies are the ones that you want to use, picking up the phone and actually talking to them. And I found by doing that there are offline negotiations that sometimes occur because the market gets so price conscious that they don't want to miss out on an opportunity to purchase. So there comes the informed message. Okay, if you find someone who's going to sell it to you for less than the range I've given you, I do want to hear from you because I'd like to give you a better offer if I may. Social media is also used predominantly at certain times, and we'll see ebbs and flows in social media use at certain times of the day, and some of them are different between different platforms as well. But we'll see, for instance, between Twitter and LinkedIn. Twitter is predominant. If I recall correctly, it's somewhere around about 7 o'clock till 9 o'clock in the morning, and LinkedIn has some times around about 11 o'clock, which are really good as well. So if we're timing our messages for publishing through some social media, we can actually capture buyers in a better way. And if you know how those platforms are communicating, you can leverage off that. For instance, LinkedIn has the ability to send messages out daily as well as weekly. So the weekly, those who opt in weekly have a timing around about, in New Zealand it's Thursday afternoon, so it's probably midweek for the US, for instance. Those daily, it's you need to get your messages into LinkedIn before 7 o'clock so that you'll be on the top of the list of each of the groups when they send out their messages, for instance. The upshot of this whole new wave, the way buyers buy, is that you need to be findable through your content everywhere. Some people have tried to say that SEO is dead, but I don't actually buy into that, because I've seen how having massive content and massive exposure for keywords and product and sectors means that when people are looking for you, they just can't help but find you. And if you have a range of information through various media, like using audio, video, some of the networks, business networks, social networks, some of the tools like the slide share and document sharing type tools, that means that people will find you in the ways that they prefer to communicate with people, with the way they prefer to find information about you. And you can communicate on different ways on these platforms, so that you can absolutely leverage what you're doing, and you can overcome a lot of the objections because the information provides so much trustworthy content that the question becomes, why wouldn't they buy from you? So just as a bit of a summary, because I know I've thrown a lot of content and ideas around, I've summarised some of the solutions here for you, and a lot of these solutions end up becoming part of a social media plan. So in some of the initial parts of a plan, what we would do is do our online market research using some of the tools, and we call those in the industry listing tools. Some of the really simple versions of those are Google Alerts, but in social media we've found that those aren't always the most effective ways of actually hearing and seeing real time what's actually going on in the marketplace for the products and services, or on the topics that people and the conversations people would have when they're buying in any market. And so it's really important to be using a range of tools, because they all work differently. And when you're starting out, you might want to, for instance, just use 1 or 2 tools to get you going. You really need to plan your website with the future in mind, because all the websites now need to be mobile friendly, or you need to have them the ability and put in code so they can divert to mobile websites as well, and have a mobile version, which is way more simplified, and they're usually around very tight specific objectives, and some of those might be just to opt into a database to receive one piece of information that you can communicate on an ongoing basis with them, or it might be to provide information. Say if you're a restaurant, you might have a menu there, location information with a map of finding out availability and contact details, so that there'll be very fundamental information there. And then they need to be integrated with your social media, and we use with the social media from there, and you need to have a social media plan set up as well. So some of the first steps would be beyond that. just to save time.
Okay, you back?
Can you hear me still?
Yeah, I can hear you
I think
now.
the system may have, okay, but I wondered if the system came out. So we would integrate our social media together and also semi-automate so that we can save time and increase our productivity. So all the sites must be integrated together, which gives you time, not only the time advantage, but you also get the SEO, the social SEO advantage as well. And it's really good to be able to create a content schedule so that you can be efficient with your time, and sometimes you can actually load a whole load of content in one hit and let the systems release it on a timely basis. And you'd also be monitoring and measuring constantly, and you'll be monitoring and measuring a variety of things just so that you can maximise the results that you're achieving. Now, I haven't given you very many opportunities to interact with me, have I? What kind of comments or questions have you got there, Nick, on what I mentioned so far? What kinds of thoughts and feedback do you have, Roberta?
Well, I think the biggest thing, and it is still something that to a certain extent concerns me with any of this, is there is just so much information that it's actually quite difficult to, it's kind of like the challenge nowadays is the choices. It is a feeling of overwhelm, and I think that's one of the things that constantly gets me with clients. I mean, I had a client here yesterday, and her basic reaction was, where do I start? And it just seems that everybody's out there, you got to buy this, you got to do this, you got to do this, you got to do this, you got to. I was like, where do you start? You just want to go out there and make some money. And, you know, if given the fact that you've got to be aware of social media, Jenny, what would you say the very first thing that somebody setting up in business should do? Keep it real simple, real basic. What's one thing that they could do? Let's say they were looking at a business-to-business market.
Okay, I would look at what the, and this is to take into account that things change. My comment would be look at the one most effective media online at the moment. And the biggest one is not the social. The two things I hone in on, but I'll focus on the first one first. Video ranks fast if you do it well. I was on a mastermind yesterday, and they ranked video for a range of keywords within 15 minutes.
Wow.
So you and I, Roberta, know that there are a range of tools we can use to develop videos that's cheap and effective. Mm-hmm. So I'd say the number one thing would be to get videos up there that have valuable content, a variety of content, and try and get as many up there as possible, as fast as possible. And if you don't have a website, find a call tracking number and get the calls directed straight to you. So at least you can get things happening in the meantime. Google, if you're a business that's based with bricks and mortar, you can use Google Places, and so you would set up there with images, information about your business, products and services, where you're located, throw in as many keywords as you can based on your services and products and the ways that you can benefit your clients, and put in, so you'll need about 5 images and you'll need 5 videos, and try to rank for your keywords as close to the top as possible. The other things I would do if you're business to business is also focus on LinkedIn, because if you fill out your profile fully and you get as much content out there and start identifying your target market and who you want to be talking to, you can target the people precisely by industry and location of who you want to talk to and need to talk to, and get those appointments coming in. And then while you're building up your LinkedIn presence also, I'd consider on posting questions and discussions so people can start to see you.
So one of your favorite social media tools as a startup business is more than likely to be something like LinkedIn.
Yes, especially for business to business. It works for the local business as well, but more so for business to business.
Jenny, I'm just looking at the time. Have you got a couple more slides there, I think?
Oh, we do. We have some things for everybody who's watching to be able to get advantage of. If you haven't already been to our membership site, we'd really love you to go there, because what we've set up for you is 50 free videos with exercises. There are webinars, fortnight tools list there, plus we've got worksheets and all sorts of resources. So these are the kind of resources that at the moment are free, and that you would be likely to be paying something like $97 a month for another circle. So take advantage of it while you can. So the way to get there is to join on mybusinessstartup.net, and there is a page there where you'll see Roberta's face and a video, and through the video we both have a chance to talk, so you can hear us and see us at the same time. But I'll give you an idea of what the program's about, and you'll be able to opt in and get all these videos and all these tools and have access to absolutely everything. And we'll be sending through emails so you never miss out on what's happening. We also an opportunity for you to take advantage of, so you can really hone in what your needs are. You have either a 20-minute free business session with us, a social media coaching session, or an analysis of your online visibility needs. So that's limited to 20 minutes on one of those. So to get hold of us with that, you can send us an email at support@mybusinessstartup.net, and if there's one of us who you prefer to be talking to, you can nominate which one of us you'd like to be spending that time with, and we're open to that kind of thing. We share our care for our clients, so take up the offer as you absolutely need it.
And considering that both of us charge out in excess of $150 an hour, 20 minutes of our time is a pretty good deal for nothing.
And this is an offer which will be time limited, so if you find that we end up, because this webinar will be online, it's being published in February at the moment, and if you find this offer becomes a chargeable service, it's because you didn't get there in time.
So Nick, thank you for attending. Jenny, thank you for presenting. I'm going to stop the recording now, and